There are forces of good and forces of evil at work in the world today. What are these forces? Who is responsible for the good? And who is responsible for the evil? Richard Shoff talks about current events which are rarely discussed by the mainstream media, events that affect us all. This program seeks to identify, to inform, and to equip the believer for what's ahead. Welcome to What in the World is Going On?
This is What in the World is Going On. I am your host, Richard Shoff. The program has been sponsored by Lincoln Log Homes. We're pro-Christian, pro-American, pro-life, pro-Second Amendment, and here only by the grace of God. We're going to talk today about our president. Trump unleashed. Boy, if you saw him up in Michigan on the television rally this past week. But it really started last Sunday when he first got the news about the Mueller report. I didn't realize that it was that big a burden to him, but it was a big lifting from him when he got the report. He had an opportunity this week to befriend Netanyahu, who is over here visiting. Of course, the Prime Minister of Israel is up for election early in April. And as always, our president issued his support to Netanyahu individually and as president, and also for the nation of Israel. Our president came out suggesting that it would be good if the Israeli government took over more of Israel, the Golan Heights as an example. Wow, who talked about that? It went before the Security Council, United Nations. Nobody joined him. We stood alone. Didn't seem to bother him too much. Our president has been more pro-Israeli in his time in office than any president in the history of our country. None that I've read about at any time has stood by the nation of Israel like President Trump. It's not just by chance, folks. It was not just by chance. Who would have thought that the support for Israel would have come from Donald Trump? And of course, with it came much of the support from the fundamentalists, the charismatics, the true believers of our country. Part of that, of course, is because we recognize what the Bible teaches. What our obligation as Christians is toward the people and the nation of Israel. And our scripture is very clear in its teachings of the blessings that will be upon those nations and those people that support Israel. It'll also be noted what the future will be for those who stand against Israel. Another thing I noted was that for the first time I picked up that Pompeo, our Secretary of State, is a believer. I hadn't realized that until a couple of weeks ago. Don't think that's much by chance either. So along with our Vice President, who is certainly a believer, except for one in the line of succession that I'm aware of, I would say they're all not only born-again believers, but staunch supporters of the nation of Israel. Well, since our president has had this lifting on him, he's really taken a strong stand on the situation at the border. Did you hear this week now where he's talking about closing the entire border with Mexico? Possibly even this coming week. And Obamacare is to be no more if our president gets his way. He's taken that over again, much to the surprise of Congress. He's got Senator Scott as one of the senators that he's asked to form a policy on health care, and certainly nobody in the Senate, no senator would know more than Senator Scott of Florida. He has been very active with, in fact, led a leading insurance company before he was the governor of Florida. Well, folks, times are changing. Times are changing. The Mueller report, the biggest disappointment for the Dems since Trump's election. If you want to give the Democrat Party principals and their left media promoters a little time to decide how to frame news about their primary focus for the last 2 years, dump it late in the Friday afternoon and then hope the opening rounds of March Madness will give them a little more cover. Yeah, 5 days ago, that was the case when the news about the Robert Mueller report on the Trump-Russia collusion delusion had finally dropped. This after 675 days of investigation. Phase 1 of the collusion between Hillary Clinton, former FBI Director James Comey and his cronies, and Robert Mueller. However, unwittingly, Mueller's involvement was to take down Donald Trump. Well, it's all now concluded. The roots of the special counsel investigation of Trump actually began when he became a candidate, and he and his administration have been under assault every day since. They haven't missed a beat, have they? Meanwhile, Mueller's mandate immediately turned into an unlimited investigation into all manners of wrongdoing regarding Trump and his campaign. A week ago Sunday, Attorney General William Barr released his, quote, principal conclusions, end quote, on the Mueller investigation. This for Congress. The special counsel's investigation did not find that Trump or the Trump campaign or anyone associated with it conspired or coordinated with Russia in its efforts to influence the 2016 U.S. presidential election. It's all history now. Yeah, officially it's all history. But it won't be for the Dems. Mueller was the second longest-serving FBI director in history, and given his unfettered investigative powers and resources over the last 2 years, if he didn't find any collusion, believe me, there wasn't any. Schiff is going to have trouble finding what Mueller couldn't. Those of us who are grounded in reality and not partisan agendas already knew that. The Mueller report already doused 10 anonymously sourced Trump-Russia bombshells and 6 unfounded media collusion claims about key Trump associates, that is. This including Paul Manafort, Roger Stone, and Michael Cohen. But the first phase of the collusion distraction has served its purpose, folks. It kept Trump on the ropes for the last 2 years. Well, he's off the ropes now. He's on leash, folks. God bless him. Our own North Carolina Representative Mark Meadows, Freedom Caucus chairman, concludes, quote, the Democrats' Russian collusion narrative is fading for one reason, because there was no collusion. It was a political conspiracy theory. To say the case fell apart would be kind, because there never was a case from the beginning. End quote from Representative Mark Meadows. A week ago, Senator Ted Cruz warned, and I quote, I do think it's striking that at least the early indications are there are no further indictments, which means that not a single person was indicted for colluding with the Russians to influence the 2016 elections. But if anyone thinks that the Mueller report being concluded is the end of the Democrats' attempt to take down President Trump, they haven't been paying any attention for the last 2 years. The Dems and the media are truly indeed out to impeach the president, and they don't care about the basis. A quote from Senator Ted Cruz. Indeed, the Democrats are now launching phase 2 of their endless strategy to obstruct the Trump administration's agenda. This, the House impeachment subterfuge. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer declared, quote, Attorney General Barr's letter raises as many questions as it answers. The fact that Special Counsel Mueller's report does not exonerate the president on a charge as serious as obstruction of justice demonstrates how urgent it is that the full report and underlying documentation is made public without further delay. The American people have a right to know. End quote. Well, folks, it's awful hard to be guilty of obstruction of justice when there hasn't been a crime committed. And according to the Mueller report, he couldn't find any crime that had been committed. House Judiciary Committee Chairman Nadler insisted, quote, there must be full transparency in what Special Counsel Mueller uncovered to not exonerate the president from wrongdoing. DOJ owes the public more than just a brief synopsis and decision not to go any further in their work, end quote. Nadler will call Barr to testify. We must hear from A.G. Barr, he said. We need to know about his decision-making and see all the underlying evidence for the American people to know the facts, end quote. He's not interested in the American people. By the way, Barr has already said okay, and he's actually given Nadler dates that he's available to come in and answer their questions. The leading 2020 demo presidential candidates parroted the Pelosi-Schumer-Nadler response. Of course, the call for releasing the full report was nothing to do with ensuring the American people know all the facts, but it was everything to do with perpetuating the only thing the Democrats have to offer ahead of the 2020 presidential campaign. What is it? Hate Trump. And beholding the administration's Make America Great Again agenda, they want to hold us hostage, and they may well produce the economic recession that the Democrats really want, because it would be their only claim to the Trump's agenda, and that it has failed. By the way, I see where originally Barr had indicated that that's the new Attorney General, that they might have it ready by April 2nd to take to Nadler's hearing. Well, he said now it'll take him till the middle of April, because he does have to find out what has to be redacted by federal law. You can't take some things in. If they only talked about accusing somebody of doing something but they didn't actually do it and go after him, by law they cannot release that information without a judge signing off on it. And by the way, did you see where our president is not even asking to look at the material first for executive privilege? See, that would be the normal thing, that he would want to exclude all the things that would come under executive privilege. He says, I don't have to see it. I trust my Attorney General. I'll let him take it out for me. Trump responded to calls to release the witch hunt report, declaring, let the people see it. There was no collusion with Russia. There was no obstruction of justice. This was an illegal takedown that failed, and hopefully somebody's going to be looking at it from the other side, our president noted. Regarding Trump's insistence on looking at the other side, and Democrats' call for a full disclosure, former U.S. Attorney Andrew McCarthy responded, and I'm quoting, "You want disclosure? Me too. But let's see all of it. Not just Mueller's report. Let's see everything, all of the memoranda relevant to the opening of the investigation, all the testimony at closed hearings, all of the FISA warrant applications, all of Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein's scope memo," end quote. House Intelligence Committee ranking member Devin Nunes backs that full inquiry. What we really need to see is what the FBI involvement with Fusion GPS was. Who were they? Who did they know about? Fusion GPS was essentially the Hillary Clinton's campaign. They were hired by the Clinton campaign, so we need to see all of that and need to see the FISA fully discovered. Yeah, we sure do, folks. We sure do. Democrats have repeatedly staked their bets on collusion, and now they're doubling down. The Democrat Party operatives set about to obstruct the Trump's administration agenda at enormous expense to those Americans that they claim as constituents, and they plan to continue that obstruction. Well, folks, our president has been unleashed. Bring it on. He's ready for him. God bless him. Trump haters are horrified that Mueller found no evidence the president's a traitor. Patricia McCarthy wrote an article that I want to reference for you on the same subject. She says, and I quote, "The left particularly melted down its shocked and sensational fashion when the summary of the Mueller report written by A.G. Barr and Deputy A.G. Rosenstein was released and read a week ago on Sunday. And it was announced that there was no evidence of collusion between the Trump campaign and Russia, despite the abundance of facts that have long proved that the Russian-Trump coalition memo was a hoax, devised by the Clintons, approved by Obama, and orchestrated by the corrupt overlords at the DOJ and FBI. Our pathetic news media, even Fox News at times, called the news of Mueller's exoneration a bombshell. Where you guys been? Clearly their heads have been stuck firmly in the sand like the ostriches that they are. They don't want to know the facts. They don't want to hear them because the facts don't exist. They can even wish them away. What about Chuck Todd, Jake Tapper, Wolf Blitzer, and of course Rachel Maddow and her colleagues at MSNBC, who were not only shocked but catapulted into a scramble of horror? Apparently it was never occurred to them that their beloved Mueller would not do their bidding and find Trump, his kids, and his campaign guilty of crimes against humanity. Well, the breaking news alerts on Fox were equally shocked, calling the news a, quote, bombshell. A bombshell it was not. The shock was that Mueller and his team of partisans could not find their way to indicting Trump for any wrongdoing. So certain that their folk hero Mueller would criminally implicate the president, the Trump deranged cannot accept his conclusion that there was no collusion with the Russians. How disordered the Trump haters are. They hope to learn our president had committed treason, and they're disappointed that he wasn't. Our left was hoping for the worst. Adam Schiff, Jared Nadler, and the followers of CNN and MSNBC should take note. They're all gone off the rails of a civilized discourse. They've left all aspects of tolerance behind. Since Trump won the election in 2016, they've become overtly what they perhaps have always been at heart. And what is that, folks? Grossly intolerant themselves. They now rationalize any and all forms of discrimination if it serves their own ends. The bombshell that is that even Brett Bauer and Ed Henry at Fox were shocked at Mueller's conclusive report. As careful and bipartisan as Fox has been, they too assumed the worst and looked forward to it, ratings and all. As been told, they talked about that Fox may be changing. That, Fox suspended Gene Pierro for posing a perfectly logical question about Omar's allegiance to Islam over America. The same week, they hired the corrupt cheat Donna Brazile over at Fox. Fox may lose some of us who have long valued the mantra of fair and balanced. It appears that they may be coming up a change over at Fox. The truth that the Trump-Russia collusion was a hoax from the onset has been revealed over the last couple of years, drip by drip and fact by fact. John Solomon, Sarah Carter, Peter Schweitzer, and a host of others, including Judicial Watch, have been writing about and revealing the truth regularly, not to mention the numerous congressional hearings that also revealed the duplicity of the left and the calculated plan to see that Trump never took office. The amazing thing is that the Jake Tappers, Chuck Todds, and Rachel Maddows of our media have not bothered to read the work of those reporters and the reports that they produced. They ignored the revelations of those hearings. They dismissed any and all facts contrary to their cemented in stone conviction that Trump somehow had cheated to win. They did not want to know about the extraordinarily incriminating emails between those higher-ups at the FBI and the DOJ. Not one of the usual suspects would admit that Donald Trump could have won fair and square after all they'd done to prevent such an outcome. They all had their fingers in their ears so they could the screaming, la, la, la. They didn't want any disagreeable information to reach their brains that might persuade them to accept reality and the truth. Given the team that Mueller hired to investigate the president, Democrat partisans all, and that of at least 25 to 30 million taxpayer dollars spent with the intent to take Trump out of the office, the result of Mueller's two-year scrutiny of all things Trump is also the exoneration of those of us who supported and voted for the man. This much is clear. President Trump, our president, is a far better man than all those who sought to bring him down. Yeah, folks, Trump is now unleashed. Bring it on, Mr. President. Bring it on. An unleashed President Trump leads the GOP as they turn their fury on Schiff over the Russian collusion claims. Damning evidence of collusion with Russia, more than circumstantial, a scandal of all size beyond Watergate. For 2 years, Representative Adam Schiff, the House Intelligence Committee chairman, seemed to be on every talk and late-night show sounding his ominous warnings about what Special Counsel Robert Mueller would find on President Donald Trump. But Mueller found no coordination or conspiracy involving Trump, his campaign, and the Russian government. The Justice Department pointed this out. That sparked a furious GOP calls for Schiff to resign from the committee or Congress as the Trump administration went on the offensive. Recriminations in mind with the 2020 elections nearing. There are a lot of people out there that have done some very evil things, very bad things. I would say treasonous things against our country. That, folks, is a Trump quote. He said it Monday in the Oval Office without elaborating. He added, "These people will certainly be looked at." Unleashed is our president. What kind of examination the president has in mind for these people? Well, I don't know, but Schiff appears to be the top of the list. Schiff, a lawyer who served in Congress since 2001, ranged far and frequently across the media landscape to interview about the Mueller investigation. In his sober, mild-mannered style, Schiff at times came close to sounding like he believed Trump had broken the law. More than any other example, Republicans pointed to a March 2017 appearance on MSNBC in which Schiff said, quote, "There is more than circumstantial evidence now," end quote. This he was referring to of a relationship between Russia and Trump's associates. In December of that year, Schiff said on CNN, and I quote again, "The Russians offered help. The campaign accepted help. The Russians gave help, and the president made full use of that help." That's pretty damning. Whether it's proof beyond a reasonable doubt or not of a conspiracy, I don't know. Schiff is far from the only Democrat to use provocative rhetoric about Trump and his campaign, but it was his words that they were getting the most attention from Trump's re-election campaign and the Republican National Committee. They featured Schiff prominently on lists of Democrats who had publicly suggested a link between Trump and his 2016 campaign in Russia. Now we found out that none of it's true. House Republican leader Kevin McCarthy from California told the Associated Press, and I quote, "Schiff should first apologize to the American public, and he should step back from the chairmanship." Counselor Kellyanne Conway went further. She said, "This man leads the Intelligence Committee in the House. He ought to be resigned today." She said it on Fox News. Well, there's no sign of that happening. I didn't think there would be. How it's over. That's what McCarthy said. When are they going to take that for an answer? There are no more rocks to be overturned. That a quote from McCarthy. Once again, I note, but now our president is unleashed. A load came off his shoulders, folks. My good writer Lloyd Marcus, that I quote so often, pointed out that maybe it's time for the Tea Party to rise again. He said the Mueller report exonerated Trump of claims that he colluded with Russia to steal the election from Clinton. In response, Nancy Pelosi said, "Screw Mueller's report. His minions will continue seeking to create evidence of Trump-Russia collusion to impeach him. Fake news media will continue its lies and deceptions to keep their Trump colluded lie going." 34 people were indicted or pled guilty in Mueller's Trump collusion investigation. Fake news media claims this is proof that Trump is guilty of collusion. The truth, folks, is the indictments and guilty pleas have nothing to do with Russia collusion. Many were found guilty of process crimes. What is a process crime? Okay, an example. One example is investigators repeatedly ask you the same question on different occasions. If you don't give the exact same answer each time, then they can charge you with lying. That's what a process crime is. Suddenly you find yourself in jail for a crime unrelated to the original investigation. And that's what's happened here. For over 2 years, Democrats and fake news media claimed they were solid evidence that Trump and Russia stole the election. Consequently, 40% of Americans absurdly believe that Russia tampered with votes to cause Trump to win. Since Mueller failed to find Trump-Russia collusion, Democrats and fake news media are demanding that Trump be charged with the obstruction of justice. Every time the deep state loses a battle to get rid of Trump, their insane rage becomes more uncontrolled. Their lawlessness, lies, deception, and violence become more extreme. Folks, these people are evil and dangerous. What gets me is many of the deep state scoundrels at the FBI and DOJ who attempted a silent coup to reverse the 2016 presidential election are still arrogantly walking around with their noses in their air and their chests poked out. They boldly continue their treasonous plot to take down President Trump in plain sight. These traitors should be prosecuted. That a quote from Senator Lindsey Graham, who is now seeking to investigate alleged FISA abuses. Folks, incidentally, Senator Graham is now he's chairman of the Senate Judiciary. And folks, you remember him from the Kavanaugh hearings. He's bringing it on good. Lloyd Marcus says, and I quote, "My fellow concerned Americans, it's time for the Tea Party to reemerge, to publicly rally behind our president. We know that our anti-American and anti-Trump enemies within are going to unleash a tsunami of all kinds of unfaithful lawlessness, craziness on our country between now and the 2020 election. Fake news media provide cover for America's enemies within by calling them peaceful patriots. Fake news media claim that everything is horrible and that Trump's going to have to be removed to save America. A highly visible Tea Party supportive of our president could help to counter these lies. There have been 533,074 articles claiming that Trump colluded with Russia. These are filled with bogus accusations, deceptions, and lies. Because Democrats are protected by fake news media, most Americans don't know that the Democrat Party has sunk to new levels of crazy and evil. The Tea Party could sound the alarm about Democrats wanting to murder babies even after they are born. We could let the public know that the Democrats have become the party of rabid anti-Semitism. Democrat Congresswoman Omar boldly expresses her hatred of Israel. Democrat presidential contenders gave Jews their middle finger by refusing to attend AIPAC. Well, the Tea Party could expose the economy-killing insanity of the Democrats' Green Party deal. In the next 10 years, Democrats want to end air travel, ban fossil fuels, mandate that every new job be unionized, and close nuclear plants. Incidentally, I guess they're going to build a big bridge to Hawaii. Absurdly, Democrats demand that every building in the U.S. must be rebuilt for state-of-the-art energy efficiency. Democrats also want to fund those who are irresponsible and lazy. Yeah, there was a divide in the Tea Party during the presidential campaign. Some of us campaigned for Ted Cruz. Well, I praise God today that Trump won. While doing an amazing job for we the people, Trump has been a one-man wrecking ball, demolishing the way most of our best interests that have not been served in Washington. Yeah, folks, Trump is now unleashed. The burden is off his shoulders. The Tea Party movement was founded upon restoring America to her divinely ordained position as the shining city on a hill. Real Tea Party folks have jumped aboard the Trump team because they know he's swiftly moving the ball in that direction. Trump has been relentless in keeping his campaign promises. We must keep the strong patriot warrior in the Oval Office. That's all of us, folks. We need to get together on that. And this from Eric Ward, isn't it time for the GOP to get behind our president? As a longtime conservative activist, he writes, who has actively engaged with leftists, I have seen every manner of lie and deceit. When the Russian collusion narrative entered our consciousness with the election of Donald Trump, I knew from the jump that it was a sham. Sadly, a large swath of the American public were caught up in the daily drumbeat of certainty that the president colluded with Russia to steal the election from Her Highness Hillary Clinton. For argument's sake, I'll give our Republican representatives the benefit of a doubt that the possibility of wrongdoing might have caused some to be cautious in throwing their support behind a man who, by implication, may have taken them down by their loyalty and support. But with the release of Robert Mueller's report of no finding of wrongdoing by the president or his campaign team, it is now time to get behind our president. You may not like Donald Trump personally, and you're not obligated to support 100% of his agenda, but he is your teammate. To use a hockey metaphor, you guys took countless high sticks to the back of his head. Your guy did. And you need to clear the bench and stand for our teammate. And anything short of clear and support is unacceptable. Wake-up call to Mitt Romney. The left was hell-bent on destroying America and, by extension, Western civilization. Today's a great day for the good guys, but don't think for a minute that the left is going to take today's findings sitting down. They're already planning their next attack. Stand up for our president. Stand with the 62 million Americans who voted for Donald Trump. Yes, stand with our president as he is unleashed and charge forward, joining him to make America great again. And by the way, something I've been trying to get in, did you know the national emergency declared by Obama? He declared them to aid Somalia, aid Libya, aid Yemen, Ukraine, South Sudan, Central Africa, Venezuela, Burundi. Those are the places that Obama invoked the national emergency. You know where Trump did it? To aid America. That's a fact, folks. That's the bottom line. Remember one thing. I believe that God's people, through their prayers, were instrumental in giving us President Trump. I think President Trump is there by divine appointment. We can keep him there with our prayers. You know, God isn't our co-pilot. God is our pilot. He's not our assistant leader. He is our leader. Pray for America. Pray for our president. Until next week.